The scent of machine oil and stale cafeteria food was a perfume I'd never thought I'd miss. For 60 years I'd dreamed of this place, of this time, of him. My Leo. We had shared a lifetime, a love story that began right here in the sprawling, noisy machinery of the Xiangjiang machinery plant in the fall of 1986. And now by some miracle we were both back. In our first life, Leo had fallen for me at first sight. Not only had he sent me over 100 beautifully penned love letters, but on the day he finally transferred back to the factory he had written a 1,000-character love poem on the main bulletin board, declaring his feelings for the whole world to see. Our romance had been the stuff of factory legend, even making it into the local newspaper. I died an old woman, warm and loved, his hand in mine. I opened my eyes to 1986, to my old dormitory cot, my body young and strong again. The first thing I did was find a pen and paper. My handwriting in our past life had been a source of secret shame for me. Leo's letters were so eloquent, so beautifully written, while my replies were clumsy and simple. This time I would be ready. I spent every spare moment reading and practicing my penmanship, my heart fluttering with a sweet, patient anticipation. I was waiting for his first letter. But the letters that should have already started arriving never came. Not a single one. A cold trickle of doubt seeped into my heart. Had the timeline shifted? Was I too early? I clung to the other anchor of my memory, the public confession. I knew the exact day it would happen. It was the day the factory broadcast station, which usually played "The Workers Have Strength," would unexpectedly play "The East is Red." That morning I put on my favorite blue dress, the one Leo had once said made my eyes look like a summer sky. I stood by the factory bulletin board, my stomach a whirlpool of nerves and excitement. My friend Lena stood beside me chattering about a new film she'd seen. "Hey look," someone shouted. "There's a commotion over by the technical block." My heart leaped into my throat. This was it. I saw him then just as I remembered. Leo. His blue work uniform was faded from countless washes, his dark hair was neatly combed, and his wire-rimmed glasses sat firmly on his nose. He was carrying a large flat object wrapped in cloth. A painting. My breath hitched. In our last life on his deathbed, I joked that if we did it all over again he should draw pictures for me instead of writing letters I could barely understand. He'd smiled and promised he would. He was coming toward the bulletin board, a faint, determined smile on his lips. I felt a smile of my own bloom so wide it hurt my cheeks. I took a half step forward, my body thrumming with the memory of his embrace. But he didn't stop in front of me. He walked right past as if I were a ghost. He didn't even see me. His gaze was fixed, burning with an intensity one remembered so well, but it was not directed at me. He stopped in front of Lena. The world seemed to slow down, the factory noises fading into a dull roar in my ears. I watched, frozen, as Leo knelt down on one knee in front of my best friend. The female workers around us gasped in unison. "Oh my God," someone whispered. "It's the new technician from the city. Who is he confessing to?" I stood there, my smile still plastered on my face, a grotesque mask of a joy I no longer felt. My hands were clenched so tightly my nails bit into my palms. "Lena," Leo said, his voice clear and strong, carrying over the murmuring crowd. "I wrote you 100 letters. Did you get them?" My blood ran cold. I hadn't received a single one. He smiled a little sadly. "And I didn't get any reply from you either. But I knew you liked paintings." With a flourish he pulled the cloth away from the canvas. It was a stunning portrait of Lena, capturing her lively beauty perfectly. "Lena, I don't want to miss out on you again. Please give me a chance." Lena looked utterly flustered. I'm sorry. I don't even know you." The crowd began to chant, "Say yes. Say yes." But their voices sounded distant, muffled. Just then the factory broadcast speakers crackled to life. The familiar, soaring melody of "The East is Red" began to play. Lena, trying to deflect the awkward attention, hummed along. "They always used to play, 'The Workers Have Strength.' Why are they playing this today? I love this song," I heard myself say, my voice strangely calm. "Actually, I don't just love it. I know today is a special day." I turned and looked at her, the truth a bitter pill on my tongue. "I've been reborn." She just giggled, thinking I was making a weird joke. She didn't understand. How could she? The day the factory broadcasted, "The East is Red," was the very day my husband had made his public love confession. But in this life the story was all wrong. The letters, the poem, the painting, they were never for me. They were for Lena. From the very beginning I had been living a love story that was never mine. Leo had chosen someone else. The days that followed were a blur of muted colors and hollow sounds. I moved through my routine at the factory like an automaton, my mind constantly replaying that moment at the bulletin board. The look on Leo's face, that raw, open adoration, was one I had never seen in all our 60 years together. I had always praised him for being calm and composed, a rock in the storm of life. Now I realized the storm had simply never come for me. I needed to understand. The memory of our first meeting in the past life surfaced, sharp and clear. It had been a year before the letters started. Lena and I, both young apprentices, were tasked with delivering a stack of production reports to the main office. We were rushing, laughing about something silly, when we rounded a corner and collided with a solid wall of a man. Papers flew everywhere like startled birds. It was Leo, then a junior technician visiting from the regional office. Flustered and apologetic, he helped us gather the scattered forms. When he looked up, his eyes went wide. I saw a flash of sheer amazement in them, and my young heart had skipped a beat. We quickly gathered the last of the papers and hurried away, but he called after us. "Wait. Your names? For the report." I should note who I delayed. Annoyed by the hold-up, Lena, without stopping, just pointed at the name tag on her chest and kept walking. He had stood there watching us go, and I heard him whisper to himself, "Lena. Like sunshine." The critical detail I had forgotten for a lifetime suddenly clicked into place with devastating clarity. That day, Lena and I had accidentally swapped our uniforms. The name tag on her chest had my name on it and mine had hers. He had asked for the name of the girl who left him speechless, and he was given the wrong one. From that moment on, the 100 love letters arrived for me, Cassandra. They described that meeting in vivid, poetic detail. How the sight of me, her, haunted him, how he longed for me, her, how he begged for a reply. Lena had made fun of them, calling him a creep and warning me not to get involved. But I was lonely, and no one had ever paid me such ardent attention. Over time my heart softened. We began a secret correspondence, and in those letters we built a relationship. He told me he would request a transfer back to the factory, and once he returned he would give me a surprise. The surprise was the public confession, where he called out the name on the letters. The name he believed belonged to the girl he'd fallen for. Mine. I remembered stepping forward from the crowd, my face burning with happiness, and throwing my arms around him. He had hesitated. I felt it now, the memory crystal clear. A slight stiffening, a half step back. I had been too overwhelmed by happiness to notice the disappointment in his eyes before I buried my face in his shoulder. He never questioned it. Our story was already written in the newspapers. How could he deny it? The love I had prided myself on, the foundation of my entire existence, was a case of mistaken identity. A 60-year-long error. This realization was a physical pain, a constant ache in my chest. I saw Leo around the factory sometimes, his entire being focused on Lena. He brought her small gifts, waited for her after her shift, his gaze following her with a devotion that was both fascinating and heartbreaking to watch. He was a man possessed, a version of Leo the first never knew existed. Lena, for her part, was characteristically casual about it. He was used to male attention. "A lot of guys write to me," she said with a shrug when I cautiously brought it up. "He's nothing special." "But the painting was beautiful," I pressed, needing to know. "Well, the artwork is pretty good," she conceded. "I'll think about it." Her indifference was a stark contrast to the all-consuming passion Leo was displaying. It was so unfair. He was pouring his entire reborn soul into winning a woman who saw him as just another admirer, while I, the woman who had loved him completely for a lifetime, was invisible to him. One afternoon I felt dizzy and weak, my low blood sugar catching up with me amidst the emotional turmoil. I ended up in the factory infirmary. When I opened my eyes, Leo was sitting by my bed, a look of concern on his face. For a wild, heart-stopping moment I thought he remembered. "Leo," I whispered, my voice hoarse. "I just got off work and came to check on you," he said, his tone polite, distant. "The doctor said your blood sugar was low. I bought you some apples. I think you like them." He gestured to a small bag of red apples on the bedside table. The gesture felt like a punch to the gut. I hated apples. At home I always gave the best fruit to him and the kids. Apples were the leftovers that no one wanted, and I, never one to waste food, would always end up eating them. That act of domestic economy had, in his eyes, translated into a preference. "Please, Cassandra," he said, leaning forward, his voice dropping to a pleading whisper. "I know you and Lena are close. But I fell in love with her at first sight. Could you help me, please? If I miss out on her, I'll regret it for the rest of my life." The audacity of it stole my breath. He was asking me, his wife of 60 years, to help him woo another woman. The man who had held my hand as I took my last breath was now begging me to be his wingman. I looked coldly at him, this stranger wearing my husband's face. "If you like her, then go chase her yourself. I'm not helping you." The words were ice. He flinched slightly, surprised by my tone. He had expected camaraderie, girl talk, assistance. He didn't understand the depth of the betrayal he was casually invoking. Just then Lena swept into the infirmary. "What are you doing?" her clear voice rang out. She pushed Leo aside and wrapped a protective arm around me. "Let me tell you something, Leo. About you and me, I still need to think about it. I can see you're putting Cassandra in a tough spot. If this keeps up, then we can't even be friends anymore." Leo immediately apologized, his attention instantly laser-focused on Lena. He was afraid of upsetting her, of losing any chance he had. He left in a hurry, leaving me alone with Lena and the bag of apples I despised. Lena brought me some porridge. "Here, drink this. If you don't like it, tell me what you want. I'll have someone go buy it." I hesitated, then asked the question that had been burning inside me. "He wrote you so many letters. Why don't you like him?" She gave a casual shrug. "A lot of guys write to me. He's nothing special." "Then would you ever give him a chance?" She glanced toward the door where he'd left, a thoughtful look on her face. "Well, the artwork is pretty good. I'll think about it." I took a sip of the bland porridge, watching her. Lena was radiant and confident. Her parents were artists, her uncle a factory manager. She lived a life of ease and assurance that I had never known. The love I had once prided myself on had never been mine. It was always meant for someone like her. I was just the stand-in, the woman who happened to be wearing the right name tag on the wrong day. And Leo, my Leo, was gone. In his place was a desperate, love-struck stranger, and I was completely alone with the echoing emptiness of a lifetime that had never truly been real. The revelation that my entire past life was built on a lie was an earthquake that shattered my foundations. For a few days I wallowed in a profound sense of loss and betrayal. I had been reborn not into a second chance at love, but into a cruel joke. The man I loved was passionately pursuing my best friend, and I was a ghost in my own life. But slowly, a new emotion began to push through the grief. Anger. It started as a small, hot ember in my chest. Anger at Leo for not realizing his mistake in our first life. Anger at him for not having the courage to correct it, for instead building a 60-year marriage on a foundation of quiet resignation. He had spoken of being trapped by the perfect love story, but what about me? I was the one truly trapped, living a life meant for someone else, loving a man who was forever longing for another. And then the anger turned inward. Why should I continue to be the victim of this mistake? I had been given a gift, a second life, a chance to be young again. Was I really going to spend it pining for a man who had never truly loved me? Was I going to define myself solely by a relationship that was now proven to be false? No. The answer was a resounding, defiant no. I decided to stop waiting. I stopped glancing toward the technical block, hoping to catch a glimpse of him. I stopped replaying our past life in my head. That woman, the devoted, self-sacrificing wife, was not me anymore. That was a character I had played in a story written for someone else. In this life I would write my own story. I threw myself into my work at the quality control department with a ferocity that surprised my supervisors. My experience from my past life, though buried under decades, began to resurface. I understood the machinery, the processes, the tiny details that could lead to a better product. I started making suggestions, small ones at first, then more ambitious ones. My coworkers, used to me being quiet and reserved, began to look at me with new respect. Meanwhile, Leo's campaign for Lena's affection escalated. He was like a man transformed from the reserved intellectual I had known. Gone was the cautious man who worried about gossip. This Leo was bold, unabashed, and relentless. He showed up at our workshop every single day, bringing her extravagant gifts that made everyone's eyes widen. Imported chocolates, stylish wristwatches, fancy sunglasses. "Wow," the women would whisper. He's really going all in. That watch alone must have cost him a few months' salary. Lena would examine the gifts with a practiced eye. If a guy can't even part with a little money, he's not worth considering, she'd say with a smirk, though she always accepted them. One day he brought a box of expensive-looking chocolate. He offered me a peace offering after the infirmary incident. I took it and nibbled. It was intensely bitter. I frowned. Why is this chocolate so bitter? Lena burst out laughing. You've never had pure chocolate, have you? The real stuff is bitter. Here, drink some milk. She handed me her cup. I hadn't had it before. In our past life, the chocolates Leo gave me were always the sweet, milky kind, the cheap stuff. Just like his words had been sweet but ultimately hollow. This new chocolate's bitterness lingered on my tongue, a stark metaphor for my new reality. The gift sparked a question in my mind. Leo, like me, came from a poor background. Where was he getting this kind of money? And then I remembered something crucial, another pillar of our past life that I had supported. Every year, the factory held a contest for the Outstanding Employee Award. Came with a significant bonus and great honor. In our previous life, I had won it 3 years in a row. But after I got together with Leo, I saw how it chafed him that a brilliant inventor in his own department, a man named Alex Way, always won the technical award. Leo felt he could never measure up. To comfort him, to build him up, I had voluntarily given my award to him. I went to the director and asked for my title to be transferred, saying someone else needed it more. Leo had always believed he won on his own merit. He would often show off the award at home, completely unaware that I was the one lifting him up from behind. But now he had someone else to impress. Why should I continue to be his unseen benefactor? When the time came for nominations, I didn't hold back. I worked harder than ever. And when the announcements were made, my name was called. I received a reward of 800 yuan, a small fortune. Furthermore, the factory director announced a new reform, the establishment of an advanced workshop to develop new products, and all team members would be chosen from among the award recipients. It was the opportunity of a lifetime. In my past life, Leo had received this opportunity because of my award. It had launched his career. This time it was mine. Lena was genuinely happy for me, giving me the most expensive snowflake cake from the cafeteria as a gift. Leo, however, was furious. He stormed into the factory director's office, demanding to know if there had been a mistake. Director, shouldn't our technical department have had 2 awardees this time? He argued. There's never been 2, the director said flatly. But Cassandra from quality control, how did she get picked? Leo insisted, his voice tight. The director replied, Cassandra's work ethic is strong and she treats her colleagues well. Everyone sees that. Besides, she's won the award 3 years in a row. This isn't new. He then added thoughtfully, although a few months ago Cassandra did ask me if it was possible to transfer her award to someone else. I asked who she had in mind and she just said someone in need. Honestly, she's got a kind heart. The silence from Leo was palpable. The director's words had revealed the truth he had never known. All those awards he'd been so proud of were handouts, charity from the woman he now saw as an obstacle. Later he showed up outside my dormitory. He wasn't there for Lena. He was there for me. Cassandra, he said, forcing a smile. Congratulations on being selected. Thank you, I said, my voice neutral. I wanted to ask you something, he continued, unable to meet my eyes. The director said you're kind-hearted. My family's really short on money. Could you give the bonus to me? The request was so entitled, so utterly revealing of his character that I almost laughed. In our past life, he only ever had to say the word, give, and I would hand things over. Cassandra, give up your spot for my mom. She's lived a hard life. Cassandra, give up your position for my brother. Cassandra, give up your resources for my relatives. I had given until I had nothing left of myself. I wasn't Cassandra anymore. I was the capable Lee family daughter-in-law. I looked at him, this man who felt the world owed him everything. If I gave it to you, I asked slowly, who are you to me? He froze, speechless. You're really something, I said, the ice returning to my voice. We've barely spoken and you're out here chasing my best friend, yet you come ask me for money. Do you go around asking everyone like this? No, I don't, he said, flustered. But could you lend it to me? No, I said, turning my back on him and walking upstairs without another word. I heard him stand there for a long time before finally slapping himself across the face and muttering, "Leo, what the hell are you doing? You've been reborn. She's not your wife anymore." He was finally right about something. I wasn't his wife anymore. And I was never going to give him anything ever again. I was on a different path now, and for the first time it felt like my own. The world didn't just open up. It burst into brilliant Technicolor life. Being selected for the advanced workshop was more than a promotion. It was a liberation. The workshop was a world away from the monotonous hum of the quality control line. It was a place of blueprints, prototypes, and passionate debate. The air smelled of solder, fresh paint, and ambition. And it was where I met Alex Way. I'd heard the legends about him for years. The brilliant, reclusive inventor from the technical department. The man who redesigned factory equipment, boosting productivity dramatically. The man who had unknowingly been Leo's professional nemesis in our past life. I'd always pictured a much older man, well past 50, hunched over a drafting table. The man who stood up to greet our group of new transfers was nothing like that. He was young, probably not even 30. His most striking feature was his hair. A stunning, silvery white crop that contrasted sharply with his tan, leanly muscular frame. He moved with the quiet confidence of someone who knew exactly what they were doing. "Welcome," he said, his voice calm and steady. "I'm Alex Way. I look forward to working with you all." When it was my turn to introduce myself, I was strangely nervous. "I'm Cassandra from Quality Control. I look forward to learning from you." He smiled, a warm, genuine gesture that reached his eyes. "I know who you are," he said. The simple statement threw me. He knew me. How? I'd never met him before. In my past life, I'd been too preoccupied with Leo and my family to notice the quiet genius in the next building. Alex was a revelation as a team leader. He wasn't just a brilliant mind, he was a natural leader. He told us that if we ever had any problems we could come straight to him, and he meant it. He listened to every suggestion, no matter how junior the person was. He practically lived in the workshop, often being the first to arrive and the last to leave. No wonder I'd never seen him around before. The work was intense and exhilarating. My experience from my past life became my secret weapon. When the team discussed developing new pickled vegetables, I found myself suggesting, "What about pre-mixed rice toppings? Something quick and flavorful for workers." There was a pause. Then Alex nodded slowly. "That's a fresh perspective. The convenience factor is interesting. Let's explore that." When someone mentioned canned fruit, I heard myself say, "Canned meat might have a broader appeal. Luncheon meat or something similar." And Alex listened. My ideas, born from decades of feeding a family and running a business, were seen as innovative and creative here. One by one they were refined, prototyped, and turned into real products. The workshop's success began to double the factory's profits. My coworkers started seeking my opinion. I wasn't little Cassandra anymore. I was becoming a valued member of the team. Meanwhile, my life outside the workshop became simpler. I avoided Leo, and after our last encounter he seemed to avoid me too, his pride wounded. Lena was caught up in the drama of his relentless pursuit. Our dorm room was often filled with his latest gifts, and Lena's commentary on his efforts. One evening she came to me with a proposition. "A whole group of us are heading to the People's Restaurant for lunch tomorrow. You have to come." "But it's lunchtime," I protested. "The cafeteria has food. Why eat out?" "Wow, Cassandra," one of the other girls teased. "Ever since you got transferred to that Dream Team workshop, you've been ignoring your old besties." Lena blushed. "Come on, let's go. Leo's treating everyone to a meal. It's kind of official now." My heart sank a little. "Official?" She gave me a sweet, slightly embarrassed smile. "We're giving it a try. You've just been so busy lately. I meant to tell you first." I forced a smile and offered my congratulations. The People's Restaurant. In my past life I had begged Leo to go there with me for a special meal. I'd asked until the place literally closed down and we never went. Now here he was, treating everyone to a grand meal to celebrate winning over Lena. The lunch was a surreal experience. Leo played the perfect doting boyfriend. He peeled shrimp for Lena, poured her tea, laughed at her jokes. The people around us were in awe. "Lena's found herself someone who knows how to take care of a woman," they murmured. I buried my head in the food. In my past life I never dared spend money freely. Anytime we ate out it was cheap dumplings or noodles, and we always split the bill. The times Leo actually treated me were vanishingly rare. This time I gorged on the shrimp he never let me eat before. I was going to enjoy this meal even if it tasted like ashes. When the bill came it was over 100 yuan. More than our monthly salaries. I expected Leo to pay confidently. But what he did next stunned everyone. He turned to Lena and asked in a low voice to borrow the money. "You don't even have money?" Lena asked, her voice sharp with embarrassment. "Why are you treating everyone to dinner?" "But babe," he whined, "you're the one who wanted to eat here. Just lend me some cash, okay? I'll give it back once I make money off my stocks." Stocks. The word was a jolt. Leo had only started dabbling in the stock market after we retired in the late 2000s. It was now 1989. The markets were in their infancy, a chaotic shouting mess of a thing. His reborn knowledge was leading him down a dangerous path of get-rich-quick schemes. Lena looked furious but paid the bill, dragging us out of the restaurant and leaving Leo scrambling behind us. The women whispered amongst themselves. What kind of man invites people to dinner and then borrows money from a woman? I knew that habit. It was tied to me too. In our previous life, even though I earned less, I was better at managing money. Leo lived paycheck to paycheck. The lines between yours and mine had always been blurry for him, always tilting in his favor. Back at the dorm, Lena was fuming. "How much did you lend him?" I asked quietly. She hesitated. "About 2,000 yuan, she finally admitted. He told me he was trading stocks. Said he turned 500 into 5,000 last month." A coworker who knew more about finance snorted. "Let me break it down for you. Stock trading might sound technical, but at the end of the day, it's just gambling with prettier packaging." Lena's face paled. "You're saying I might never get my money back?" The seeds of doubt were sown. The fairy tale Leo was trying to build was showing deep cracks, and for the first time I saw a glimmer of something else. My own future, bright and independent, stretching out before me, completely separate from his drama. It was a path lit not by the reflected glow of his attention, but by my own hard work and the quiet, steady respect of a man like Alex Wei. The tension between Lena and Leo simmered for days after the restaurant incident. 2,000 yuan was an unimaginable amount of money to most of us, and the idea that it might be lost to something as nebulous and risky as stocks was a constant source of anxiety for her. She became withdrawn, her usual bright laughter replaced by a worried frown. I threw myself even deeper into my work at the advanced workshop. It was my sanctuary. Alex Wei's leadership style was a balm to my soul. He was everything Leo was not. Steady, reliable, and he valued competence above all else. He noticed my contributions, and not in the way Leo had, as something to take credit for, but with genuine respect. My bonus at the end of the first major project was noticeably more generous than others, a silent, tangible acknowledgement that I saw and appreciated. One afternoon, I returned to the dorm a little later than usual. The workshop had been buzzing with a breakthrough on a new canned stew recipe. As I approached the door, I heard raised voices from inside. Lena and Leo. I paused, not wanting to interrupt another of their arguments. But the tone was different this time. It was sharper, more final. "Give me back my 2,000. Lena's voice was cold, demanding. "I told you I made money, baby." Leo's voice was frantic, pleading. All of this, I could imagine him gesturing at the piles of gifts that had accumulated. "I bought it with my earnings. If you want clothes or shoes, I'll buy them. If you want a crown, I'll get you one next month." "I don't want a crown," Lena shot back, her voice like ice. "I want my money. No. Give me back my 2,000. There was a beat of silence. Then Leo, his voice deflated, said, I can't right now. It's all invested. Can't pay me back?" Lena's voice dripped with contempt. "Then give me your stock certificates. Now." I heard a rustling of paper. Leo must have handed them over, probably hoping this gesture would placate her. He was wrong. The next sound was unmistakable, the violent tearing of paper. Rip, rip, rip. "What are you doing?" Leo's scream was pure, unadulterated panic. "Emily, stop. Do you have any idea how much money was in there? You stupid woman." The sound of the slap was so loud, so shocking it seemed to echo in the hallway. My hand flew to my mouth. I'd never known Leo to be violent. The reserved, intellectual man I'd been married to would have rather swallowed his own tongue than raise a hand to a woman. I heard a choked sob from Lena, then her footsteps rushing toward the door. She yanked it open, her cheek blazing red, tears streaming down her face. She barely glanced at me as she pushed past and ran down the hall. I stood frozen for a second before stepping into the dorm. The scene was one of devastation. Leo was on his knees, surrounded by a snowstorm of torn paper, the shredded remains of his stock certificates. In that era, those papers were the only proof of ownership. Without them, his investment was gone. Vanished. He was laughing, a hollow, broken sound as he tried to gather the scraps. He looked up and saw me, his eyes wild with a mixture of rage and despair. I wordlessly picked up a broom and handed it to him. Use this. Stop picking them up by hand. Thanks, he muttered, not meeting my eyes. Cassandra. I went to my bed, my heart pounding, and started mechanically organizing my things, trying to give him some semblance of privacy in his humiliation. The air was thick with his anguish. After a minute, he spoke again, his voice a ragged whisper. Cassie. The name hit me like a physical blow. Cassie. Only my family and my very closest friends ever called me that. In all our years of marriage, Leo had always called me Cassandra. It was a small, intimate detail from a life he shouldn't know. I turned slowly. Our eyes met across the ruined room. Cassie, he repeated, his voice breaking. You were reborn too, weren't you? The question hung in the air, sucking all the oxygen out of the room. All the pretending, all the careful distancing, evaporated in that single devastating moment. He knew. He had always known who I was, not just in this life but from the last one. I felt a surge of nausea. The awkwardness was unbearable. I shuffled my feet, my only thought to get out, to escape this confrontation. He suddenly lunged forward and grabbed my arm, his grip tight. Cassie. You were reborn too, right? Help me. I'm going crazy. I shook him off, my skin crawling at his touch. I'm not your wife, I spat, the words tasting like poison. He froze, stunned, and slowly let go of my arm. I tugged at my wrinkled shirt, heading for the door for freedom. That's when he exploded. Cassandra, he yelled, his voice cracking with hysteria. The mistakes from the last life weren't my fault. They were yours. You're the one who ruined everything. I stopped dead, turning back to face him. He was shouting now, all pretense gone, his face contorted with a lifetime of suppressed resentment. He ranted about how stifled he'd felt in our marriage, how it had crushed his soul not to be with the one he truly loved, how exhausting it had been to pretend every single day. He talked about this new life as his chance to finally chase his happiness, to correct the cosmic error. He painted himself as a noble warrior of love, a tragic figure, while turning me into the villain. A petty thief who had stolen his marriage and his destiny by wearing the wrong name tag. I actually laughed, a short, stunned burst of sound that was utterly devoid of humor. The absurdity of it was breathtaking. If you never loved me, I finally said, my voice dangerously calm, why didn't you push me away from the beginning? We spent a lifetime together. I stayed by your side until death, and you're telling me it was all an act. His anger flared. Do you think I could just walk away? Our love story was in the newspapers. They even made a drama about it. Divorce was a huge disgrace back then. What would my parents say? What about our child? I spent my whole life trying to keep that love looking perfect. He was practically spitting. You went around telling everyone how beautiful those 100 letters were, but you never once asked how I felt. You used your love to trap me. I stared at him, seeing him clearly for the first time in 2 lifetimes. He was a coward. A man so obsessed with appearances, so fragile in his pride, that he would rather live a 60-year lie than face a moment of social discomfort. He hadn't stayed for me or for our child. He had stayed for the story. He pointed frantically at the scraps on the floor. Help me. Just lend me some money. Even 1,000 would be enough. The stocks might be useless now, but I can't give up. I'm just getting started. His eyes were manic. You owe me. You owe me from the last life. The entitlement, the sheer audacity, shattered the last of my composure. I owed him. I grabbed my bag and turned to go, but he grabbed me again, his grip on my arm like a vice. You can't leave. You have to give me the money. You owe me this. His grip moved to my throat, his fingers tightening. I could smell the desperation on him. I need the money, Cassandra, he shouted, his face red and monstrous. I couldn't breathe. I clawed at his hands, spots dancing in my vision. Bang. The dorm door burst open. Framed in the doorway was Alex Way. How did he know? How did he always seem to show up? In one swift, powerful motion, Alex grabbed Leo by the collar and hurled him out of the room. Leo landed in a heap in the hallway, coughing and spluttering. Alex turned to me, his face a mask of concern. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice gentle but firm. "I'll take you to the infirmary." He looked like he was about to go after Leo again, but Leo scrambled to his feet and fled down the corridor, his footsteps echoing his shame. "Why did you come?" I asked, my voice trembling as I rubbed my sore neck. "You said you were just going back to grab something from the workshop," he said, his gaze scanning me for injuries. "But you were gone for over an hour. I came to check on you." I was surprised. Was Alex Way looking out for me? The thought was both comforting and confusing. Whatever the reason, he had saved me. The mask had finally shattered, revealing the ugly truth beneath Leo's romantic facade, but in its place, a new, steadier door had opened. In the aftermath of Leo's violent outburst, the factory grounds felt different. The air, once thick with the romantic tension of his pursuit, was now charged with a darker, more wary energy. Whispers followed me everywhere, a mixture of sympathy and morbid curiosity. "Did you hear? Leo from Technical tried to strangle Cassandra. Over money." I felt exposed raw. The dorm room, once a shared space with Lena, now felt like a crime scene. I couldn't sleep there, couldn't look at the spot on the floor where the scraps of his dreams had lain without feeling his hands on my throat. I didn't have to for long. Alex Way, with a quiet efficiency I was coming to recognize, took it upon himself to act. He went to the factory director and, citing concerns for my safety and the need for a dedicated space for a key R&D team member, applied for a private dorm room for me. The request was approved within a day. My new room was small but blessedly private, located in a quieter building usually reserved for senior technicians and department heads. What I didn't expect was to discover that Alex lived right next door. I ran into him carrying my small suitcase of belongings. "I thought you slept at the workshop," I said, surprised. He scratched the back of his head, a faint blush visible even on his tanned skin. "I do, but I come back sometimes." He nodded toward the shared bathroom down the hall. "The workshop doesn't have showers." It made practical sense, but a part of me wondered if his presence nearby was more than coincidence. Was he keeping an eye on me? The thought wasn't unpleasant. Lena, once she'd recovered from the shock and humiliation, officially and publicly broke up with Leo. She came to see me in my new room, her face filled with remorse. "I had no idea he would get physical with you," she said, her voice heavy. "I tore up his stock papers, not you. Why take it out on you? He's insane." She shook her head. "I'm so sorry, Cassandra. I brought this into our lives." "I'm fine," I assured her, though the bruises on my neck told a different story. "But Lena, you really need to think this through. Get your money back if you can. And stay away from him." She nodded, her expression firm. "I am. It's over." True to her word, she avoided him completely. Leo, now a pariah, became more unhinged. He lurked around our old dorm building, trying to catch a glimpse of her to beg for another chance. But his path was invariably blocked. I saw him once from my window trying to approach the building, only for Alex to seemingly materialize from nowhere. I couldn't hear what was said, but Alex stood his ground, his posture calm but immovable. Leo argued, gesticulated, then finally slumped in defeat and shuffled away. After that, he never came near the building again. The next time I saw him was in the cafeteria. Our eyes met across the crowded room. His gaze was full of a bitter, accusing hatred. He looked at me as if I were the architect of his ruin. I held his gaze for a moment, then turned away with a quiet scoff. Two could play at that game. His failures were his own making. With the drama of Leo and Lena receding, my life found a new, peaceful rhythm centered on the advanced workshop. The workload was heavy, but it was the kind of fulfilling work that made time fly. My confidence grew with each successful project. The ideas kept coming, flowing from a well of experience I no longer feared to tap. When the team debated new product lines, I was ready. Pickled vegetables are a stable product. But what about pre-mixed rice toppings? I suggested in a meeting. Something quick, flavorful, and convenient for the single workers? We could sell them in small packets. A hush fell over the room. Then Alex leaned forward, his silver-white hair catching the light. Convenience is the future, he said, his voice thoughtful. That's a brilliant angle, Cassandra. Let's develop a prototype. Another time when canned fruit was proposed, I spoke up. Fruit is seasonal and can be expensive. What about canned meat? Luncheon meat or a savory stew? It has protein, it's filling, and it has a longer shelf life. Again Alex listened, his intelligent eyes assessing the idea. You're right about the protein factor, he agreed. It could be a staple for workers doing hard labor. Let's run the numbers. My suggestions, once met with surprised curiosity, were now taken seriously. They were innovative, market-savvy, and they worked. The pre-mixed seasoning packets and canned stew became huge successes, dramatically boosting the factory's profits. My coworkers began to seek my opinion not out of politeness, but out of genuine respect. The factory director himself started knowing my name. I was no longer just Cassandra from quality control. I was Supervisor Cassandra, a key member of the R&D team. Alex treated me with a professional respect that was incredibly validating. But there was something more, a subtle layer of personal care. He always made sure I had the resources I needed. He'd bring me a cup of tea during late nights at the workshop. His bonuses for me were always the most generous, a silent acknowledgement of my value that I cherished far more than any grand, empty gesture. 2 years passed in this way, a blur of hard work, quiet camaraderie, and growing self-assurance. They were the most fulfilling years of either of my lives. I had money, independence, and a peace I had never known. Leo, meanwhile, continued to spiral. After being harshly dumped by Lena, he refused to give up. He became her permanent, unwanted shadow, her ever-devoted backup. He poured what little money and energy he had left into trying to win her back, sabotaging any other man who dared show interest in her. He wore his shameless obsession like a badge of honor, and the whole factory watched the pathetic spectacle. And somehow, against all odds, his stubborn persistence wore Lena down. She gave him another chance. I didn't understand it. I thought she had seen his true colors. But some dynamics are hard to break. For a while it seemed like they might make it work. Then one day, Lena ran into my room, her eyes red and puffy from crying. She looked more upset than I'd ever seen her. I regret it, she choked out. I regret ever getting back with him. He's gone way too far. Through her sobs, the story tumbled out. She had only wanted to introduce Leo to her parents, a casual meal to see how they got along. But Leo, without telling her, had brought his entire family, his parents and his younger brother. It was a disaster. His father immediately started talking about dowries. Our son is a high-quality match, he declared. If your daughter marries him, she's hitting the jackpot. After marriage, she should stay home and serve her in-laws. He demanded a significant dowry and the 3 big gifts, and since Lena's family owned a house in the city, he saw no need for his son to provide one. Then, as a casual afterthought, he added, "You'll need to arrange a job for Leo's younger brother. We're all family. Can't play favorites." Lena's parents, people of culture and means, were mortified but remained polite throughout the meal. As soon as they got home, they ordered her to never see Leo again. He didn't take the rejection well. When begging and pleading failed, he turned vicious. He started spreading a rumor throughout the factory that Lena had gotten pregnant by him and had an abortion. I was stunned. Wait, what? That's not true at all, is it? Of course not. Lena cried, her voice cracking with fury and hurt. We never even stayed out overnight together. Cassandra, this is the last time I'll see you for a while. I think I'm going abroad for further study. My parents are helping me get completely away from him. I'll make sure he can't stay here another day. In that moment, I remembered who Lena truly was. She wasn't just a pretty face. She came from a well-connected family. Leo's usual petty tricks had finally backfired spectacularly. He had targeted the wrong woman. His second chance wasn't just over. It was about to explode in his face. Lena's departure was swift and decisive. One day she was there, a vibrant, if troubled, presence in my life, and the next she was simply gone. Her family had pulled strings, securing her a spot in a design school in Paris. She left without a word to Leo. He, of course, completely lost his mind. The day her resignation was officially processed, he became a man possessed. He ran through the factory grounds like a madman, bursting into offices and workshops, demanding to know where she had gone. His eyes were wild, his hair disheveled, his usually neat uniform wrinkled and askew. He was a spectacle of desperation, and the entire factory watched his meltdown with a mixture of pity and horror. His public unraveling was his own undoing. That same afternoon he was taken in for questioning by the factory security committee on suspicion of public indecency and creating a disturbance. I never learned the exact details, but it was clear Lena's family had made a call. They were ensuring their daughter's clean break. He returned from the questioning session looking utterly broken and bewildered. The hammer fell immediately after. He was summarily fired from the Xiangjiang machinery plant. His pass was revoked, his locker cleared out. I saw him from the window of the R&D department, standing outside the director's office, practically on his knees, begging for another chance. It was a painful, pathetic sight. He had lived a whole second life, armed with memories of the future, and he had still managed to destroy himself completely. The irony was bitter. People always think being reborn is an automatic ticket to success, that knowing the future guarantees victory. But what good is foresight without discipline, without hard work, without basic decency? Leo had always been undisciplined. In our past life I had been the one pushing him, organizing him, propping him up. Without me as his unseen foundation, his grand plans, his poetry, his travels, his dreams of a life of leisure, vanished like smoke. His reborn knowledge had only led him to risky stock gambles and toxic entitlement. After getting fired, he quickly discovered that no other factory in the city would hire him. His reputation had preceded him. The story of the public confession, the borrowed money, the violent assault, and the slanderous rumors had spread through the industrial community like wildfire. No matter how eloquently he talked about future trends, no one dared to take a chance on a man with such spectacularly poor judgment and a vicious streak. Sensing his opportunities evaporating, he made a decision. He would leave. He still clung to the arrogant belief that his rebirth memories were a golden ticket. If these provincial factory managers couldn't see his value, he would go somewhere else, somewhere he could climb to the top on his own merits. He vastly overestimated his ability to endure hardship. He looked down on everyone he met, believing no one had his vision or intelligence. He managed to offend potential employers and business partners wherever he went. He jumped from city to city, scheme to scheme, each failure stripping away another layer of his confidence and another chunk of his savings. The years were not kind to him. The polished technician slowly eroded away, replaced by an increasingly desperate and bitter man. Meanwhile, my life continued on its upward trajectory. 10 years passed. The Xiangjiang machinery plant had transformed, evolving from a state-run factory into a modern, thriving corporation. The advanced workshop that Alex and I had started was now the official well-funded R&D department. He was the department head and I was his deputy. We were a well-oiled team, our professional respect deepening into a warm, steadfast friendship. I had money, security, free time, and a profound sense of peace. I had built a life entirely on my own terms. I kept in touch with Lena through letters. Her time in Paris had transformed her too. She found her passion in design and met a man, a gentle French engineer named Pierre. She sent pictures of them together, both of them glowing with happiness. This year she was returning home to host a grand wedding celebration in her hometown, and she invited everyone from the old factory days. I was genuinely happy for her. The wedding was beautiful. Lena was a radiant bride, and Pierre looked at her with a kind of quiet adoration that spoke of real love, not obsession. It was a world away from Leo's performative passion. After the ceremony, as I walked out of the luxurious hotel venue, feeling content and hopeful, I almost didn't recognize the man loitering by the gate. It was Leo. Time had not been kind. His face was gaunt and weathered, his cheeks hollow. A scraggly, unkempt beard failed to hide the deep lines of bitterness around his mouth. His clothes were worn and hung loosely on his frame, which seemed to have shrunk in on itself. He looked a decade older than he was. "Cassandra," he said, his voice a dry rasp. He stepped toward me, his eyes burning with a familiar, accusing hatred. "Was it you?" he demanded, his voice rising. "Were you the one pulling strings behind my back?" I stared at him, bewildered by his delusion. "You're the one who stole my Outstanding Employee Award," he accused, jabbing a finger at me. "You're the one who stole my future. You turned everyone against me." He took another step, trying to confront me, but he was immediately intercepted by the hotel's security guards. They were large, professional men who grabbed him with effortless efficiency. "Don't pull me. I know her. I need to talk to her," he yelled, struggling against them as they began to drag him away from the entrance. He looked like a stray dog being hauled off to the pound. A part of me, a final remnant of the woman who had once loved him, felt a pang of pity. But it was quickly overshadowed by a weary disgust. He was still blaming everyone but himself. I motioned to the guards to wait. "Let him go for a moment," I said. They loosened their grip but stayed close, watching him warily. Leo straightened his shabby jacket, trying to salvage some dignity. He cleared his throat. "I just wanted to chase love," he said, his voice still ragged. "Is that so wrong? Why did you stop me?" The self-pity was astounding. "I didn't stop you," I replied, my voice calm and cold. "But would you dare storm into her wedding right now? Would you declare your love for her in front of her new husband and all her guests?" His eyes flickered toward the hotel entrance, where the sounds of laughter and celebration still spilled out. He wavered, then fell silent. The fight drained out of him. "That's love?" I asked softly. "Funny. I chased love in my last life too." He laughed, then, a hollow, broken sound utterly devoid of humor. It was the sound of a man who had finally, truly lost everything, including the narrative he'd built for himself. A smooth, quiet purr interrupted us. A sleek black car, a latest model Crown sedan, pulled up to the curb beside me. The window rolled down to reveal Alex Way in the driver's seat. He didn't even look at Leo. His gaze was fixed on me, warm and steady. "Ready to go?" he asked. I nodded. I turned my back on Leo, on the ghost of my past life, and opened the passenger door. As I slid into the luxurious leather seat, I saw Leo's reflection in the window. He was just standing there on the sidewalk, a shrunken, lonely figure, watching the life he could have had drive away without him. Alex handed me a small, beautiful bouquet of flowers and a sealed envelope. "Happy May 20th, he mumbled, a faint blush creeping up his neck as he focused on pulling back into traffic. I smiled, tucking the flowers and the unopened letter into the glove compartment. It was already so full of his letters it could barely close. I'd long since lost count, but they had surpassed 100 a while ago. They weren't flowery poems or desperate pleas. They were simple, honest, heartfelt notes. Letters about his day, about a technical problem he'd solved, about something that made him think of me. They were real. "You're still writing me letters?" I teased gently, the warmth of the car a stark contrast to the cold encounter outside. "Aren't we an old married couple by now?" He just smiled, a quiet, happy smile, and reached over to squeeze my hand. We drove away from the past, toward a future we were building together, one quiet, honest day at a time. The reckoning was over. My new life had truly begun. The car ride home from Lena's wedding was filled with a comfortable silence. Alex focused on the road, but his presence was a solid, calming force beside me. I leaned my head against the window, watching the city lights blur past, my mind finally at peace. The image of Leo, broken and bitter on the sidewalk, was already fading, replaced by the warmth of the car and the scent of the flowers he'd given me. It was strange how life could come full circle, yet land you in a completely different place. The first time around, my story had been defined by 100 love letters from a man who loved the idea of me. This time the letters were different. They were from a man who saw the real me. When we got back to our apartment, a modern, spacious place we shared near the factory, I finally opened the glove compartment. The cascade of envelopes spilled out. I picked up the one from today. It wasn't long. It spoke of pride, his pride in me, in the woman I had become. It mentioned seeing me laugh with Lena at the wedding and how that simple sight had made him happy. It ended with a simple, profound sentence. "Every day with you feels like a new discovery." This was the love I had been waiting for in both my lifetimes. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It was steady. It was real. It was in the way he always made sure I ate lunch, in the way he defended my ideas in meetings without ever patronizing me, in the way he had quietly ensured my safety when I needed it most. A few weeks later, the factory director announced his retirement. The board of directors, after a unanimous vote, offered the position of director to Alex. He was the natural choice, the brilliant, respected engineer who had spearheaded the company's most profitable innovations. He accepted on one condition, that I be promoted to head of the R&D department. "There's no one more capable, no one with better instincts for this industry," he told the board, and they agreed. So, at the age where many were just settling into their careers, I found myself at the helm of the most dynamic department in the company. My office was spacious, with a window overlooking the factory floor. It was a long way from the quality control line, a longer way still from the shabby hut Leo and I had started in during our first life. One afternoon I was working late, reviewing new product proposals. A soft knock came at my door. "Come in," I called, not looking up from the blueprint. The door opened and closed softly. I assumed it was one of my junior engineers. When I finally looked up, I froze. It was Leo. He looked even worse than he had at the wedding. His clothes were threadbare and he had a defeated stoop to his shoulders. He stood there, wringing a worn-out cap in his hands, looking around the plush office with a kind of bewildered envy. "Cassandra," he said, his voice rough. "Leo," I replied, setting my pen down carefully. "This is a restricted area. You shouldn't be here." I know, he said quickly, taking a half step forward. I heard. Head of R&D. That's something. I didn't respond. I just waited. He looked down at his feet, then back at me, and I saw it then, not anger but a deep aching regret. "I made a mess of things," he said, the words seeming to cost him dearly. "A real mess." I remained silent. He needed to say this, but I didn't need to absolve him. I thought coming back, knowing what I knew, I thought it was a cheat code. He gave a bitter, self-deprecating laugh. Turns out I was the only one I was cheating. I was so busy chasing a ghost I didn't see what was right in front of me. His eyes met mine, and for the first time, there was no blame in them, only a sad clarity. "You were always the strong one, Cassie. I was just the guy who got the credit." It was the closest he would ever come to an apology, to an acknowledgement of the truth of our first life. It wasn't for me. It was for him. A final confession before he closed the book. "What will you do now?" I asked, my voice neutral. He shrugged, a hopeless gesture. "Go back to my hometown, I guess. Look after my parents. It's what I should have done in the first place." He turned to leave, then paused at the door. "He's a good man," he said without looking back. "Alex. He's a good man." And then he was gone. I sat there for a long time after he left, not moving. The chapter was finally, truly closed. There was no victory in it, only a quiet sense of completion. That evening I went home and told Alex about the visit. He listened quietly, then simply pulled me into a hug. "The past is past," he murmured into my hair. "Your future is here." And he was right. My future was in the thriving factory we had helped build. It was in the letters that still occasionally appeared on my desk. It was in the quiet evenings we spent together, reading side by side. It was in the life we had built, not on a foundation of mistaken identity and borrowed dreams, but on mutual respect, shared ambition, and a deep, abiding love that had grown slowly and surely, one honest day at a time. I had been reborn, waiting for a love letter from the past. But my real love story had been written in the present, in 100 quiet moments with a man who loved me not for a name on a tag, but for the person I was and the person I had fought to become. The circle was complete, and I was finally exactly where I was meant to be. The end.